Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me to this session at Rev Tech Summit. My name is Avishai. I'm co-founder and CEO at TrenDemon. I wanted to talk to you today about how to transform your website into a pipeline powerhouse. How do we understand the effectiveness of our website? How can we measure it? What are some of the main metrics that we want to look at? And I'll also share some benchmarks about how we see websites perform, how we see account-based marketers convert pipeline, and share some tips on how to improve those rates. All right, so let's get started. As I mentioned, we'll be talking about measuring the website's effectiveness. And to do that, we will first of all have to understand, what does it mean to have an effective B2B website? As I mentioned, we'll talk about some of the metrics that we'll go over and share some benchmarks on website conversions. How does this look in practice? We will share a very clear playbook, step-by-step process, how to set up, measure, and then take steps to improve those results. And again, share some examples of how we actually work with our customers to help them improve it. So a quick word about TrenDemon. We are a B2B website personalization platform. Essentially, we help our customers, mostly tech B2Bs, the majority of them also do account-based marketing. We help them move target audiences through their website towards their business goals. On average, we see an uplift of 5 to 18 times in conversion rates from anonymous visits to pipeline. And that's through those processes that we'll share with you in the next few minutes. All right, so measuring a B2B website's effectiveness. And this can be a tricky thing because as marketers, we were always thinking about certain performance metrics, technological metrics, and KPIs like load time, the user experience, and all that is very important. We're not going to deal with the technical aspects of the website's performance. We do want to take a deeper look at the business impact of the website. And to do that, I thought it could be helpful just to outline some of the differences between how we would measure a B2B versus a B2C website, and why that matters for the whole process of our evaluation. So if in B2C websites, we look at the page view level, at the individual page view and the traffic level that is happening in order to understand how well that specific page is performing. The B2B context is at the journey. We try to see their entire buyer's journey, where they come from, what they read until they convert. That entire process in B2B is much more important than the individual page view that we're used to looking at when we're looking at, for example, e-commerce websites. All traffic versus target accounts, audiences, segments. Basically, when we're selling to pretty much everyone, we look at the entire traffic as our group, as our target audience. B2B is much more nuanced. We have a lot more different variations in audiences, target accounts, segments. And without that ability and that resolution, we get a lot of noise if we just look at all the traffic as that indicator. B2C is a lot about the on-page conversion. Did they fill that? Did they buy it now? Did they check out? B2B, the business actually happens off-page, right? The off-site conversion, it's the sales qualified lead, it's a closed one in Salesforce. All those deeper business objectives. And finally, B2C conversion is king, right? It's all about the conversion. B2B content is king, right? We want our audience not just to click the request to demo, but actually read the information, educate themselves, empower themselves so that we have a meaningful discussion when they are ready to engage with the sale. And for that, we need content. All right, so moving quickly into which metrics we recommend to pay attention to track, and what are the leading indicators that can help us understand whether our website is truly effective and where could be some gaps and drops that we can close on our website. So a big question that we usually start out with, and this is especially relevant again in B2B and of course in account-based, how many of the accounts that land on our site actually proceed to just see another page view? Now, it sounds like a very simple question, but you'd be surprised at how many companies don't really understand and know what that figure is. And when you think about it, the majority of lost deals happened there. That's the biggest drop that you can expect. And we're going to look at some benchmarks in just a few minutes. So how many accounts proceed to another page view? How many actually read the page? In TrenDemon, we have a very useful metric, the read rate, which looks at the number of visits compared to number of reads. How do we know if a page has been read? Well, we can look at indicators like dwell time, like scroll depth, mouse activity. All these things are accessible. We just have to look at them and look at them in the right context. How many of those accounts and visitors are truly engaged? When we talk about engagement, we talk about reading at least 3 pages. So as you can see, it's all layered in. So after we know how many that a page has been read, we are asking how many pages have been read by a specific account. And then we ask how many people from each account have visited our website. Because as I'll share, as we all understand, it requires probably more than one person to engage, to visit, before an account can become sales qualified. So how do these numbers look in reality? And of course, the last one is how many actually convert to sales qualified opportunities, right? This is the main objective that we're trying to get. Now let's look at some of those benchmarks. This is actually taken from our system, from TrenDemon, but essentially you can compile, you can analyze, you can create this data yourself with various web analytics and integrations. Just as a side note, TrenDemon has a free trial option, so you can actually go open an account, get these insights for free without being a full TrenDemon customer, at least to help you understand where some of those gaps could be. But just as an aid to visualize the metrics that I was sharing, so we have up here the number of visited companies, and then we can look at the number of proceeded. And we usually try to see figures that are higher than 35% that become proceed. So in our analysis, we see that from paid traffic, for example, over 72% don't continue on beyond the first page view. So if you're able to generate 30, 35, 40% proceed, you're already kind of in a better position. Then we have the engaged companies, and then we have reached goals, which again can vary pretty dramatically between different companies, different journeys. However, I do wanted to share some average benchmarks that we have been seeing. And here, for example, we looked at the number of days and page views it took to get an account from first visit to a sales qualified position. So we're seeing that it takes about 14 days to reach an MQL, 9 page views, and then after that, another 5 days and 2 page views for an SQL. Within that frame, there are at least 4 content pages that they've read. So content meaning not the about us or specific product page, but content about the topic. Maybe it's a blog post, maybe it's a case study. But this is why this content is so critical for the B2B buyer process. We talked about the number of people from each company, and we see that on average, between 10 to 19 people from an account will visit the website before the account reaching a sales qualified stage. So that means you don't only need to look at the person from an account and how they're moving, but also the number of people. And the second comment is you got to make sure you have enough persona related content, because out of those 10 or 19 people that are going to come, of course, they're not going to be all in the same position looking for the same information. You have to be able to support with your content the different roles that are going to interact with your website. So how does it all look in total in terms of benchmarks? So we see about between 0.5 to 2% conversion rates to MQL. Now that's a wide range, but it also gives you kind of a ballpark figure to understand whether your website is converting to the right amount of leads. But I think more importantly, and the question that marketers are asking themselves is how are we actually converting into pipeline, into sales qualified? And for that, we see about 0.2 to 0.4% conversion rates from visits to those leads on average. So again, look at your sites, look at your benchmarks and see kind of where you fit within those ranges. All right, so now moving on to talk more about the playbook itself. How do we actually put this kind of measurement into place? And then what are some of the actions that we can take to close those gaps, identify them and close those gaps? As we mentioned, the first step in a B2B analysis, website analysis that we do with our customers is first of all, define the audience segments, the target audience that we're actually interested in moving forward. This really is our North Star. The second part is to connect it to business goals, to the sales goals of our organization. Anything that is kind of at the sales accepted stage is a good goal. So anywhere from sales qualified leads, or open opportunities, down to the closed one and the revenue level are those kind of main goals you want to be measuring your marketing assets and activity towards. After we've set them up, we want to start collecting data on the entire buyer journey of those target accounts. In TrenDemon, for example, it can look something like this. So if we're looking specifically at different buyer journeys, if we want to look at specific buyer journeys on our site, TrenDemon has this visualization that actually shows you every step of the way from the moment they landed until they've reached the business outcome. But that information can exist also in your marketing automation or in different analytic systems that you're using. But it is important to start with this foundation of mapping the buyer's journey, because this is what allows us to really then figure out and understand what is working across the journey as opposed to just the session level. Going back to our playbook, so once we have those journeys mapped, we want to start analyzing different channels' effectiveness at bringing in relevant buyers and target segments. So if we define an ICP of companies from a certain geography, over 100 million in revenue from a certain vertical, we want to be able to understand if our campaigns are actually generating that traffic, bringing those intentful buyers. The other piece that we want to start measuring is our content effectively moving buyers forward. And again, here, the way that we've implemented it here at TrenDemon is that we are looking at every page in the context of a goal, the context of an audience, looking and seeing how many of the people that visited that page have actually went on to complete a journey, for example, reach an SQL. And we can look at the completion rate of that page, and look at read rate that I've mentioned, proceed rate, and their relative position. This data, again, can also be created through other ways. This is how we've implemented it, but it is important to look at the content of either at the area level, so in different areas, let's see, how is my blog converting, how is my case study section or resources, product, etc., as well as the individual level, so you can take it down to that resolution. And then lastly is connecting it all to pipeline to actual sales opportunities that our website has been able to generate. So this is how we're doing the analysis. Now let's look at some ways that we've been able to close those gaps. I think definitely, the main way that we're helping our customers close those gaps they have is through personalization. Why is personalization so critical? Well, we can see the numbers. The differences between personalized experiences versus non are just staggering. It's about 5.5x conversion rate uplift to SQLs for personalized pages, for pages that have some personalization. Now, that doesn't mean that the page has to say, hello, Jamie, welcome to our site. The personalization that I'm referring to is actually being able to serve contextual content to different audiences. So being able to, for example, this page, if I know the visitor is coming from a financial company, I want to show them the financial use cases, the examples, the calls to action, versus the same page personalized to a visitor, let's say from the automotive company, right? Seeing that relevant information. This is how we're able to 2x, 3x, 4x the proceed rate of target audiences, so that as they're landing on any page, we can already start plotting their path forward, recommending the content for them to move forward in their journey. So going back to our main recommendations, one example, like I said, is using personalization on the site. But for example, if we've discovered that we have a great channel bringing in some great intentful buyers, but the read rate on that page is too small, we need to look at the content itself. Are people actually reading this through? The objective is not just to move them forward quickly, but to present relevant content for them to consume in a recurring way. This is how we're building trust. And basically, if we are not able to capture their attention, there's no way we're going to capture their budget. So mind those metrics, mind the read rate of your pages, for specific relevant target audiences, look at their proceed rate, look at how many of them are moving forward, look at how many people from each account are engaging with your content. And then you're able to better assess and predict whether your content and your website as a whole are effectively helping you generate more pipeline. Thanks for joining me. Appreciate you making the time. I look forward to connecting with you after the conference.